Sabah everybody and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to share with you guys my favorite features of the brand new Pixel 5. I've been using it for the last 5 days, and of course there's a lot of things to be said about this device that doesn't carry a flagship processor but still gives you a flagship experience, all for $699. This is TK. Thank you very much for checking out this video, and this is the Pixel 5. Like and subscribe, and make sure you hit that bell icon so that you're always notified to whenever we have new videos on the channel. So this package was sent to me from Google. I want to say thank you very much first and foremost to Team Pixel and of course made by Google for this gift. They sent me a pair of Pixel Buds, which I've been using actually for a very nice time. Of course we have the Pixel 5 case. This is specifically for the Pixel 5 5G, and of course this is made by Google for our device. I did pick up actually another case. I wasn't sure they were going to send me a case, so I actually did already have a see-through case, hoping that I was going to be getting the sage color. And of course the Pixel 5 5G. The boxing experience is pretty standard. You get the charger, you get the phone, OTG adapter, and of course just a USB-C and an 18-watt charger that you get in the box. What you're getting here essentially is a brand new Pixel 5 5G. There is only one model. It's going to be basically two different colors. There's just black and the sort of sage. So this is basically the sort of sage, Google and their naming convention. We have 8 gigs of internal storage, 8 gigs of RAM actually, 128 gigs of internal storage with UFS 2.0 support in here. The processor that we have here is the 765G. This is not the 865, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about the experience coming in with this device. For 5G connectivity, we are going to use the X52 modem here, since this is not the 865. The battery that we have here is a 4000 milliampere battery that is charged with the 18-watt charger that comes in the box. It is a power delivery charger, so you should be pretty good. Now, we also do have wireless charging as well as reverse wireless charging, even though we have a metal back, which for the most part is a very unique experience. We also have a dual sensor camera in the back now, which has changed from last year. And what I mean by this is we're still supporting that 12.2 megapixel sensor here with the 1.4 micron sensor as a primary shooter, but the telephoto lens from last year, that's the one that we had with the Pixel 4 and the Pixel 4a, has now been switched over to an ultra wide at 16 megapixels. The front-facing camera still is an 8 megapixel sensor. We still have stereo speakers, although we do have a slight difference here. We no longer have an earpiece at the top. It's actually vibrating through the glass. So stereo speakers with the speaker on the top being a vibration under the display type of an experience. Bottom fire speaker here, of course, for the secondary speaker, USB-C, a microphone. Backing is pretty clean with the Google reflective logo that we have here. A fingerprint sensor that's on the back, not on the front, with gesture support. Dual sensors and one of the additional microphones. There's 3 total microphones. The last one is sitting here at the top. On the right side we have a power button and of course a volume rocker that's sitting here. Across the other side we have the single SIM supported device. It does support an eSIM, so in theory 2 different options, but a SIM or an eSIM with 5G support. On the top, pretty much clean, and of course everything else looks pretty much very nice. Now this is running Android 11 of course out of the box, since this technically came after Android 11 became available. But before we go too far, let me show you guys real quick this case that came with the device, and as you can see it looks really nice. And one of the other options that we get to have now is the ability of actually sharing battery, which is actually called battery share. So I'll go ahead and click it on. It'll basically kind of give us a nice little diagram. Just turn it over, put it down. Here's the Pixel Buds, and as you can see right there, we have wireless power sharing, the ability of charging our wireless buds very easily using our own device. Now it is actually using a Qi charger, so these are also going to work with any Qi charger, of course USB-C connector, and they're very easy and very simple to set up. Once you have them configured, you have a couple of LEDs in there. So what we have here essentially is a 60-inch display running at 90 Hz at 1080p resolution at a 19.5 by 9 aspect ratio. As I mentioned, the 765G, well, the 765 is the processor with the X52 modem. Of course, 8 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of internal storage, Android 11 running out of the box. And of course, one of the other options that we get here is the customizations that we get with Android 11. So as we can probably imagine here, if you press and hold the power button, we have the new power menu with the new options for customization for the Google Home, of course Google Pay here, and of course the power button and emergency option. The recent application has been changed. As you can see right now, screenshots and of course selecting text is actually inserted. So now kind of highlights what we have as far as selection. Screenshotting takes a screenshot. I'm also able to share it or edit it directly in here. And of course customizing all of those things. The new permissions are also in here, as well as the new dialer option, which is the bubble support for both messages as well as dialer, and the Facebook Messenger if you're using it. So all of these things are present. The aggregation of notifications, unfortunately I don't have any right now, are also in here. But some of the main differences that we also have here is in the camera department. which is why we talked about that at the beginning. We have a 16 megapixel ultra wide now, as opposed to what we had in the past. I do apologize for the color shift. I do have some blue lights behind me that's causing some of this issues here. But for the most part, your standard focal length, the 12.2 megapixel sensor is there. The ultra wide jumps into the 16, and of course, the telephoto is mostly just a digital crop on there. We have portrait mode, night sight, which is typical as we've seen in the past, video, and of course more for panorama, photosphere, and lens. First and foremost, we'll notice that is the options as far as video changes a little bit. So we have obviously 1x and 2x, so that's the digital crop that we have. No recording video with this option right now under normal with the ultra wide. Slow motion currently will take us by either 1/8 of the time or 1/4, and you can again use the 1x or 2x. The other option, of course, is using time-lapse, and you can customize your experience. And you notice that the UI is extremely nice and fluid. Obviously, we have the settings in the back. We can record up to 4K 60 frames per second with the primary sensor, and of course, we can go to 1080p 30 and so on. Now, on the front-facing sensor, all we have is 1080p 30. There is no options of changing that, so I'll go ahead and switch it over. And you'll notice right there, if I go down, there's not even an option to select anything else. But we are able to actually have time-lapse as well as basically normal, and of course 1/4, which is the cropped in option on the sensor. But the other option that we have here is under the stabilization mode that we have for video. And that gives us the ability of doing standard stabilization. That's the normal option where it stabilizes and makes the video very smooth. We have locked for basically far away options. If you're trying to track something a little bit far away, it does a 2x zoom on it because it actually focuses in closer, and of course will stabilize the video. The active option will work mostly if you're actually running or if you're doing more of an action shot. And last but not least is the one we saw, and that's the cinematic pan, where it basically becomes very smooth panning shots for speed with basically half speed, about 24 frames per second or so. And of course, it is muted because of that stabilization. Okay, we're gonna start off with the front-facing camera on the brand new Pixel 5. And of course, we're able to shoot 1080p 30 frames per second. No option to change the resolution, but should be pretty good as far as the audio and again, the video that we're getting. Now we're switching over to the main sensor in the back. We're able to shoot 4K 60 frames per second, even though we have the Snapdragon 765. And of course, that gives us all the capabilities of all the other video modes that we've seen in there, as far as the panning, the Cinepan, which actually has a more of a smooth panning option here. And of course, as I'm showing you guys right now, another quick sample of another 4K 60 frames per second. I'm just doing a pan shot here in the backyard. The main benefit, of course, is that all of this is packed, again, within the Pixel 5. And of course, we're running some really good options as far as video now, improvements in video that we didn't have last year. So great video and great photography now options as far as the Pixel 5. Now, of course, as far as the speaker test, as I mentioned to you guys at the beginning, we have a bottom firing speaker, and the top speaker is actually emitting through the glass. So let's go ahead and see how does it sound on the brand new Pixel 5.
Jack it up.
Now, I did notice that the sound kind of seems to be emitting intervals right at the point where the end letter is showing up, and the bottom firing speaker is giving us most of the sound. Overall, it does sound pretty decent. It's not going to be the loudest speakers that you're going to be hearing, but definitely pretty good as far as the experience that you're getting there. Now, as you can see right there, the refresh rate is able to basically consistently keep 90 frames per second. Now, by default, when you first turn it on, it's technically turned on more of an adaptive option. And what I mean by this, essentially that it actually adapts to on the display. So you'll notice right there, automatically raises the refresh rate from 60 to 90 frames per second, depending on the content that you're watching. Now, we do still have that option under the developer option. If you go under System, and of course, developer options, you're able to actually force 90 frames per second. Not only that, you also have the ability of turning on a counter that tells you exactly what the frame rate is on the display. Now, even though we're not running the 865, the fluidity of Android 11 here is absolutely fantastic. Now, when it comes to the performance of this device, even though we're not running the 865 and we're running the 765, realistically, on the daily, you probably won't even notice that you're not running a faster processor. One of the main differences is that the UI is actually optimized to run and function very nicely with this device. The overall refresh rate that we have here essentially is an adaptive refresh rate, and what I mean by this is that it actually doesn't stay at 90 frames per second all the time. You have the ability of turning it on, obviously either on or off. Off means you're at 60, on means you're more of an adaptive 60 to 90 frames per second whenever needed. Now, there is an option directly within the developer section to turn on force 90 frames per second all the time, and that's something that you can turn on. Just keep in mind when you do force it to run at 90 frames per second, battery consumption does go high. The auto mode that we have right now is there to help us save some battery. Some of the other applications that we definitely have appreciated to see in the past is obviously the audio transcribing service functionality, and that means we can actually turn it on and allow it to record the audio that I'm actually recording here. But not only that, it actually does a live transcription on the device without having to send anything to the cloud. And the beautiful part about it is it's actually searchable. So once I'm done recording this piece of audio later on, I can actually search the audio based on that actual text. So if I want to be able to jump to a specific point, it will actually mimic it and jump us to the waveform exactly where it is. So all the normal options that you can expect. Tell me the weather.
Currently in Santa Clarita, it's 75.
And one of the other things is, because of this is a Pixel device, it's actually going to be running all of the functionalities of the Assistant natively on the device. Now, of course, this will also be supporting the Pixel stand, so it's very simple. You just basically set it up, connect it, and you can configure your stand experience. Once you shut off the display, you can actually turn your phone into an actual either Assistant, a clock, or even actually a picture frame, similar to the way we do it with, let's say, a Nest display. Now, the fingerprint sensor is on the back, and it is actually quite fast, but it also supports gestures, which is very nice. So you're actually able to open up notification panel all the way down, and of course swipe it down if you want to be able to access it this way. That's that recording that we were looking at right there. We're going to go ahead and hit save. It'll save it directly in here, Tuesday. And again, I can jump back in, look at the transcription, jump into the word done, and that's exactly where that word happened. So it's super nice and super simple. As far as photography on the Pixel 5, there's no question that this device will generate amazing pictures. From normal standard images, portrait imagery, and of course you'll be able to be using the wide angle lens, the telephoto, which essentially is a digital crop, as well as the standard focal length. There is not going to be an issue. The cameras on Pixel devices ever since the Pixel 3 have always been improving year after year. When it comes down to the actual functionality and overall daily use, I've been using it on T-Mobile with 5G. It does actually clock in pretty decent speeds here in the US. In the couple of tests that I did do, I was able to get basically 136 down with 14 up and 110 down with 24 up. Now, when it comes to gaming, and I'm pretty sure you guys are wondering about that, overall, the games will run pretty good. We're not going to be able to use all of the highest settings yet. As far as Call of Duty, I was able to use it at almost at the best settings. And of course, with PUBG, I also was able to get the best possible. They're going to update these games to run better with Pixel devices in the near future. In the current setup, being that this device is not even officially out yet, I would say that it's actually pretty good. We're getting a 6-inch display with a 90 Hz refresh rate on it. Of course, we have a large battery. We also have the ability of getting new features added to this device, as the way they've done it with Pixel in the past, where they call them like new feature releases. So expect more new things to come out. The earpiece is actually not a bad earpiece. Surprisingly, even though it's under the display, it vibrates pretty nicely. Phone calls were very clear, very loud. There was no issues for me to hear anybody. And of course, speaker calls and all of those things, as you can imagine, work really nice. Let me know in the comments below, what would you like me to focus on the Pixel 5 specifically, as obviously there'll be a video to cover the camera, and of course there'll be another video for gaming, because I feel like we need to show that you don't really need a flagship processor in 2020 to get the best experience out of a smartphone. And the Pixel 5 is truly the case to make, and so far it has been blowing me out of the water. So absolutely fantastic. Again, thank you very much to Team Pixel, and of course made by Google, for this gift. And again, I'll see you guys in the next video.